Hi, everybody, and welcome in. It is time for Three Guys Before the Game, the pre-Penguin edition, also known as the Youngstown State edition of Three Guys Before the Game. Thank you so very much for being with us. We are back, just as promised, right? We told you on Monday we're going to do these 2 a week now that the season's on, and we're happy about that. We go Mondays now, and we go Thursdays. Monday, we talk about what happened on Saturday. Thursdays, we look ahead to what will happen this coming weekend. Delighted to be joined once again in studio by the Senator, Brad Howe, and by the Dean over there of Sports Writers, Hoppy Kercheval.
Sports Writers?
Well, you know what I mean. You write. Do you not write?
I do write.
I mean, you write. Senator, you write. I mean, don't you have a little column on the connectbridgeport.com?
I string some words together.
And if I'm not mistaken, don't you have a daily commentary? I mean, so you write?
I do write.
Yeah, I mean, you sometimes, yeah. I mean, you write very well.
No, it's true writers are like artists. I'm more like a bricklayer.
No, I know. I'm in the union
in the bricklayer category.
I'm with you too on that.
So
yeah,
you sit down.
It's much easier to talk than write.
It is. Well, this is you know, I mean, I can write a commentary, but it's more like I write myself into a jam and then write my way out of a jam. Right? That's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, great writers, they sit down. You know a lot of great writers.
I do.
I tell you, you know a Pulitzer Prize, right? Your buddy Terry Wimmer is a Pulitzer Prize writer,
WVU
right?
graduate,
a WVU grad, and those guys sit down and it just goes.
Well, I think they work at it. And to digress, and your rival, Alan Taylor.
Who?
Alan Taylor.
Let me tell you something. He's not my rival. I love that guy, and I love his podcast, the Sweet Spot Podcast. You should listen to the Sweet Spot Podcast each and every episode. They just released yesterday. He's got those two nice little guys with him, Keenan Cummings.
Just patronizing.
And Matt. What do you mean I'm patronizing?
He's got those two
that's
nice
awful.
little guys.
That's a clinic on cross-promotion here by you.
Yeah.
I assume they cross-promote back to us, right?
They love us.
Yeah.
Matt Keller and
That's
Keenan
right.
Cummings, and then Alan Taylor. And I sit next to Keenan every single day in the Holgerson press conference. I wedge myself between he and this year Kevin Kinder. I mean, I'm there, so I'm
okay.
I'm on the Sweet Spot bandwagon.
Okay.
Yeah. Listen if you haven't.
I'm just saying, Alan Taylor is an excellent writer.
Yeah.
He's a very, very good writer. You read his stuff, you go, oh, that's gold right there.
Yeah. He struggles with personal hygiene, but he's a really good writer. Just a joke. It was there. I took it. Just took it. Thanks again, everyone, for subscribing. We're getting good reaction to the post-Tennessee edition. Let's jump in here. We've got the Penguins of Youngstown State, second time in 3 years that YSU is coming to Morgantown. Similarity in that Bo Pelini remains there as head coach, and there are some players from Youngstown State that were on the field the last time they were here. The storyline of this game is that, surprisingly, Youngstown State comes in at 0-1. They were opening the season against Butler, and things did not go well at all. They had a double-digit lead late, and it evaporated, and now they have spent this week going like, what in the heck just happened? How much that will hurt them or help them this Saturday, we'll find out.
They blew a 35.5. They were a 35.5 point favorite coming into that game. Had a 14-point lead with 9 minutes remaining in that game. Had a 1-point lead with about a minute left and didn't get the onside kickback. That's a devastating loss. You talked to their play-by-play guy on Sportsline this week. He sounded despondent.
He was bummed,
He sounded despondent.
You know what he said? Now, he's been there since Jim Tressel was the coach, since '89. He said, worst loss ever.
Well,
worst loss ever.
Considering that Youngstown State was FCS top 25, considering Butler doesn't give athletic scholarships, okay, that it was, as Brad said, you're up 21-7, you're kind of just rolling along here, and then it gets away from you. I watched the Bo Pelini press conference, and he said flatly that Youngstown State did not deserve to win, that they played poorly in all three phases of the game, that people didn't carry out assignments they had practiced. Can you imagine, and consider it's Bo Pelini, can you imagine what practice was like this week? I actually think that, and I know what Brad's going to say about this game, I think that this is West Virginia will win the ball game. However, this worries me a little bit. Because,
Stop it.
He can let him go.
What,
Let him
we're
go.
2 minutes in, we got this one worries me?
Let him go. Let him go. Let him go. Let him go.
Thank you.
He's on a roll.
In that, I bet that coaching staff challenged every one of those players this week to say, you were embarrassed, this program is embarrassed, people's jobs are on the line, and you better think seriously about whether you want to play Penguin football. It's kind of funny even to say that, Penguin football, but nevertheless. So I think they're going to come in and play very hard. Now, they're not going to win the game. Okay, they're not going to win the game. But I would not be surprised if you don't see a redo of 2016 where the game is close at halftime, because this has the potential for West Virginia to be a little bit of a letdown game, believe it or not, because everybody's got West Virginia already in the conference championship game. Everybody's written off Youngstown State. You watch, if there's a real good likelihood that West Virginia will be just a little bit off its game in the first half, and Youngstown State will play. People are playing for their jobs, which will make for at least a competitive first half.
Senator, agree or disagree?
Butler quarterback Will Marty went for 25 of 38, 253, and 3 touchdowns. Now, all due respect to Will Marty, who's a non-scholarship football player, as you pointed out. That ain't no Will Greer right there. So is this a potential, when you look at it on paper, a potential letdown game? Well, sure it is, because you're sandwiched between Tennessee and NC State. It doesn't matter. This is a name your score for West Virginia. This is a Will Greer has moved to the front of the pack for the Heisman chase. This is rack yourself up some numbers, Will Greer. Rack yourself up some numbers, David Sills. Gary Jennings, you get some. Hey, Trayvon Wesco, why don't you catch a few passes? This is a rout.
Is it 21? Is it 21-0 first 3 possessions of West Virginia? Is that what you're calling?
I think if it's not, I'm going, oh, what's going on here? That wouldn't surprise me a lick. Now, could West Virginia come out and start slow because they're not totally? Yeah, that could happen. But this talent discrepancy here, guys, especially offensively for West Virginia at the skill positions, which it's, by the way, it's going to be a talent mismatch almost all year against everybody West Virginia plays when I say that category, against some really young defensive backs from Youngstown State. You put that tape on for just a little bit and you watch them struggling with one-on-one coverage on the outside against Butler. West Virginia's got to light these guys up.
Here's what's scary if you go back to the last time West Virginia and Youngstown State played. Yes, it was a relatively tight game through the first half. That 16 team of West Virginia is nowhere close to this 18 team.
Agreed.
So here's what's scary. The 16 team against the team of Youngstown State that eventually played that year in the national championship rolled up 624 yards of offense. They ran for 235. They passed for 389. And Skylar Howard threw 5 touchdown passes. That, to me, if you just look at that and go, wait a second, this Youngstown State team isn't as good as the one that came here 2 years ago. This West Virginia team is significantly better than the 16 team. That's where you got to go like, ooh, if this thing...
That Youngstown State version 16 had those 2 pass rushers. Remember, their defensive
NFL
ends were
guys.
big-time NFL guys. Yeah. And West Virginia, you're right, struggled in the first half, but then ends up winning by, 17 points, 3 scores. So I really do, guys. I think this is a name-your-score type of game, and I think the debate centers around what drive does Will Greer come out of the game and Jack Allison gets his first action as a Mountaineer.
They got a couple guys. McCaster is the running back that's been there for a while. He's approaching 2,000 yards. He had 160 last week or something like that. Their quarterback's a kid from Notre Dame. He's a graduate transfer. Obviously, he was good enough to be recruited by Notre Dame, but not play at Notre Dame. So he's got some skills. He threw for. They had 500 yards against Butler. They had 500+ yards last week.
He made some nice throws. He didn't look awful, but again, you didn't face the pressure from Butler that you theoretically should see from this West Virginia team. That's going to put Van Gorder, the quarterback, in a different spot.
What I'm banking on here in kind of in fading the public on this is that Bo Pelini will have challenged this team, that they won't commit 9 penalties for 100 yards. They won't get touchdowns called back if they get a touchdown. They won't have a turnover. They will be better. That was not an indicator of how of their level of play. That's what I'm banking on in fading you on this.
On that small little niche, I'll actually agree with you, believe it or not. I think they will come out, and you got to think they'll play better. He's got their attention now. This, to me, simply comes down to this is just a giant talent disparity here. That stuff that you're talking about, I think, matters more if it were going to be close. I think this is one that this is simply, to me, guys, this is simply about West Virginia and how well it comes out and plays and prepares that determines whether you can catch the 33 line, catch up to, and it started at 27, the number did. Started at 27, and it quickly escalated to 33.
So you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be on this team. You're going to be on the back of this team if they're not up 28-7 at the half, 35-7
Well,
at the half?
my take will be this. If they're not, then you fall back on you kind of took this lightly. I get all that. I get that happens over a 12 or 13 game season. So I wouldn't crush this team on the back end unless it ends up being a close game. I just think this is simply, if you're West Virginia and you're Will Greer in this offense, your eyes light up and you come out and say, listen, we've got a tough schedule from here on out, Kansas notwithstanding. Other than that, there are none of these weeks left. So if you're Will Greer and these guys, this is a chance. Load these numbers and put yourself a little further in the national conversation here in the highlights. That, to me, is the story in this one.
That leads us to our next question. What does a good team do on a week like this? So if you come off of a victory over a Power 5 team, as West Virginia does, and now you're a heavy favorite, as you said, 30-plus points, what do good teams do against these types of situations? So later on in the program, we'll talk about the blessed 1988 Mountaineer team who will be celebrating. You know what the 88 team would do with these guys?
Bury them.
They'd come in there and they would absolutely jackslap them.
Good team. The 88 team beat Bowling Green.
62-14.
62-14. Then they beat Cal State Fullerton.
Got 60 again, didn't they?
45-10.
Same thing.
Close.
Is 45-10 an acceptable score?
Just keep this in mind. After Cal State Fullerton suffered that defeat of 45-10, they dropped football at the end of that season. That's true. They dropped football at the end of that season.
But West Virginia has done this there's some history. Under Dana Holgorsen, they're 7-0 in these games with an average margin of victory of 31 points. That's what you're looking at in this game. That's what I would like to see out of this team is you just come in and you're right, Tony. You just roll these guys. Thanks for coming. We're out. We're on to Ryan Finley and NC State. That's what this is about.
So is it 55-10?
Yeah. 56-17 because they get a late touchdown when you got some other guys in there that you're trying to work. This, to me, I don't mean this as disrespectfully as it sounds, but this is about West Virginia getting some work in. Button some stuff up offensively with your starters. Defensively, go learn what you got, right? Get some guys in. And again, with this new transfer rule where you can play some guys and not lose a red shirt, get up early so you can start to mix some of these guys in and see what you've got if you're Tony Gibson and Dana Holgorsen.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me in this game is how offline was last week's effort against Butler for Youngstown State. This is a team that has competed against Division I Power 5 schools in the past. Last year, they had Pitt beat. And I know you'll say, it's Pitt. Pitt's down, but it's still still a Power 5 school. So this is not a team that comes in, like Kansas, which is 3-34 in its last 37 games. They're not like that, right? So to me, the interesting thing is going to be how big of an aberration was last week. And then on the second part of it, to me, I'm all about mental toughness of teams and chemistry of teams. So, and as far as the spotlight on West Virginia, to me this week is, okay, show me. Mm-hmm. Show me that you can go out there, and it doesn't matter if it's Orange in Tennessee in the Power T or if it's a Youngstown State or whomever it is. You go out there, and just like you said, you play for you, and you tighten up everything. That's what I want to see. I want to see efficiency and cleanliness. They were very clean with penalties last week, very clean with turnovers last week, just the one late. I want cleanliness to become the characteristic of this team.
Well, especially if, so again, I think that centers back on your expectations for this West Virginia team. If this is a 7-win team, as Vegas says, maybe you're in a dogfight here for a half against Youngstown State. If you're an elite, win the Big 12, maybe playoff team, then you slap them. Then you come out 56-10 and say ball game.
And Tony, you said, is this a good team? You define a good team. I think there's a difference. I think a good team comes out and wins the game. I think an elite team comes out and there's no question. I'm not sure this is going to happen, but an elite team takes care of business. And there isn't any question at any point. You don't come away from the game with question marks. That was a big thing about Tennessee. I mean, there's some things like what do you do at linebacker, but that has to do with injuries. But you didn't come away from that game saying, well, can they pass the ball? Can they stop people? Can they run the ball? Can they get a pass? No, you came away. You didn't have those kind of questions. So an elite team would not come out of this game with Youngstown State with questions. Question marks.
That's a really good point. Just go back 2 years ago to this same matchup. Yes, Tony, it was a Youngstown State team that got itself to the national championship in their level. West Virginia was a good team. It won 10 football games that year. None of us would mistake 2016 for an elite West Virginia team. Well, what'd they do? They struggled for the first half, won 38-21, so it was a convincing win, but it wasn't the dominating, oh, look at West Virginia, check it off type of game. So I think what you're saying, you just go back 2 years and you saw that happen, play out.
One other note to take a look at, if you listen to Jake Spavital, the offensive coordinator this week, he said the run game is probably going to be what's going to be available to them this week because of West Virginia's receiving threat. So let's keep an eye out on that. Dana Holgorsen said on Tuesday during his press conference when asked about his running game, he said, okay, just okay. That was the quote. Okay, just okay. I get the sense that they want to go out this week and show that they can absolutely pound people on the ground. And based upon the defensive formations that they may be seeing, it may be a box that is, open to be able to do that. So let's see. They went from 118 rushing yards last week on 27 attempts, which was just over 4 yards per carry. I think they want to come out of there Saturday with big numbers on the ground game and feel good as they go down to Raleigh.
Boy, and it's interesting. They got 4 guys. They got 4 guys that can carry the football. And, Kennedy McCoy made the big mistake of fumbling. I mean, what you don't want to do is when there's 4 guys to fumble the ball. And Holgorsen said he was going to give him a chance in the second half, but boy, you fumble the ball and there's 3 guys ahead of you. Boy, I know they didn't get a ton of yards, but still, I like those running backs. I like the skill that you saw there, Brad. I think they got guys. Somebody is going to emerge at some point, but I like having 4 guys.
Well, this is a real challenge. We're going to talk about this every week. What do you do to defend West Virginia? That's especially true if you're Youngstown State and you got those corners out there that you're not sold on anyway. What do you do? You try and drop in zone coverage and not rush Will Greer and give him time to throw? Look out. You try and load up and bring pressure and leave those guys outside, or the middle of the field against Butler was there a ton.
Thus the tight end.
Thus the tight end or that slant to David Sills.
Yeah.
You see that a bunch. That's what West Virginia likes to run down around the goal line. That seems like it might be there all day as well.
Could tight ends combine for 5 catches in this game?
I think easily. Yeah, they got 3 on Saturday, so targeted 4 times. I think that's a real possibility down the middle of the field because you're going to have to do what with safeties? If your corners are in trouble, what do you do with the safeties? You got to roll them over. That middle of the field should be wide open. If you got to bring your linebackers up because you're running the ball, I mean, best of luck here.
Next topic, defensive changes for West Virginia. Not desired, but have to make a change because of the season-ending injury to Charlie Benton. We talked about this on Monday's show when the word came out that Benton was done for the year. And we said, do they go play more 4-man front now and not as much 3-man front? Not getting that indication from Tony Gibson. It sounds to me as though what defensive coordinators constantly do is they're always going, what if? They always go, what if? They go, what if in spring? They go, what if when they're sleeping? They go, what if so-and-so goes down? How would I move around? I think Tony Gibson is in his what if scenario. They're talking about Exree Lowe. They're talking about Shea Campbell at that strong side linebacker spot, plus getting other guys that, to this point haven't been in the conversation, but getting them ready quicker. Guys like Josh Chandler, the true freshman out of Canton, Ohio. You're also hearing Adam Hensley's name, Zach Sandwich's name. So guys that maybe weren't going to be on the shelf up front get a chance.
Well, this Youngstown State team, they want to run the football, and this isn't a totally different conversation than what it was against Tennessee. When you're a 4 touchdown plus underdog, what are you going to try and do? You're going to try and run it and shorten the clock anyway. But this is a game, Tony, I wouldn't expect Tony Gibson to have to change anything schematically for this one. This is a chance where you can mix some guys in. If you have some people over there that you think can maybe help at linebacker to provide depth, try them in this game. You don't need to go 4 down linemen necessarily against this Youngstown State offense, although they ran it at times well against Butler. But that's what I'm saying about this is almost as if it's a scrimmage situation for West Virginia where you can mix some guys in, try some things, give some different looks, and get some work in. Well,
Tony Gibson is an experienced defensive coordinator. He's compensated very well. Figure something out.
Oh, yeah, he will.
Figure something out.
And don't you think...
And they got, Tony, you named all those guys. I mean, somebody's got to step up. And you would think that among those people, somebody will emerge. Now, granted, they're not playing because theoretically there are people ahead of them that are better, but maybe with more reps and maybe with working with the first team during the week, they get better and then play them in a game. I mean,
here's what I think. Gibby's a sly dog. I think Gibby might just have a little something. I'm just saying.
Listen.
I think he might have a little.
Just find out. Gibby didn't just find out in the first quarter that they may be thin at linebacker.
Right. So
this has been coming since the spring. And here's the other thing, guys. Who says what you do against Youngstown State has to be the same thing you do against Kansas State and the same thing you do against Oklahoma? It doesn't, and I would be willing to bet right now it's not. So be it personnel, be it scheme, be it mixing these things up, you're going to see a lot of different things this season. You're going to see it pieced together.
All right, next topic. The 1988 Mountaineer football team. This weekend will be honored. 30 years have gone by since this Major Harris-led squad went undefeated in the regular season. This was back in the days of wagons, horses, and 11-game seasons. And they went 11-0. And
no forward pass.
No
Remember,
forward,
you
yeah.
couldn't.
They went 11-0, led by Major, among others, and they'll be honored. I think about between 40 and 50 of the guys are scheduled to be back this weekend. West Virginia was undefeated in 88, undefeated in 93, and have had some fantastic teams since then, including the Pat White teams as well. But for whatever reason, that 88 team always just elicits a super smile on everyone's face. Played for the national championship.
Yep. Tony, I had Don Nealon, the coach of the 88 ball club, on my public affairs program earlier today. And I asked him, can you believe it's been 30 years? He says, I got a call, and they said they're doing something for the 88 team because it's been 30 years. He said, 30 years? Has it been 30 years? I mean, think about that. For Mountaineer fans who've been around for a long time, 30 years. And he knew he had a good team because he'd been around a while. He recognized talent. I mean, I'll just run through some of the names on that team. You mentioned Major Harris. In the backfield, they had A.B. Brown, Andre Johnson, Eugene Napoleon, Craig Taylor. That offensive line, maybe the best offensive line ever in the history of West Virginia. Rick Phillips, Brian Smider, Stroya, Kovac, Kevin Koken. Receivers, Reggie Rimbert, Calvin Phillips, Grant Espel. That's just the offense. Defense, Ronaldo Turnbull, Chris Herring, Steve Grant, Dale Jackson, Theron Ellis, Robert Pickett, who was a captain, Mike Fox, Chris Parker, Bo Orlando, Darrell Whitmore, Willie Edwards. I mean, think about it. That's an all-star team.
Yeah.
That's incredible talent.
It was swimming with NFL guys.
You know what's
88
amazing?
and 89 years were unbelievable NFL guys.
And Nealon said, like you have to have with a great season is you had good team chemistry, good team character,
Leadership.
you had senior leaders that kept people in line. That team had everything. And unfortunately, Major got hurt in the championship game, and there you are.
You know what it has too? That's a really hard message to get across to guys when they're 18 to 22 years old. But it's one of the really special things you have if you play at West Virginia. This group captured it forever, for generation upon generation upon generation. I know you read that list. I'm willing to bet if you put that list down, you could have named most of those guys, as can most people in the age group that watch that. And I think that's what you can't grasp when you're a sophomore and you're 19 and you're playing and you're trying to grind through the daily process. But you put up a special year at West Virginia, it's in essence forever. People will always talk about you.
How about Dana Holgerson? I mean, a lot of people had not heard that earlier this week. He was a senior in high school. He liked that 88 team. He liked Major Harris, and so he had a Mountaineer sweatshirt. So here he's walking around in Iowa with a Mountaineer sweatshirt. I mean, you grew up in Iowa. You never wore a Mountaineer sweatshirt until you got here.
You haven't asked me.
You never did.
I had a Mountaineer hat. Remember the old
Did you
one?
really?
You remember the old ones that Don Nealon had with the circle logo on it? Yeah, because I was a big hat guy and I was a big sports guy. As you can imagine, that is one that I had. And Major Harris is a guy, especially back then, because you didn't have access to all the TV that you do now. Major Harris, of all the stars you named right there, what did he give you from a national perspective?
Yeah.
Highlight moments
all the time.
every single week that transcended just this local market.
And one of the highlight moments was that Penn State game. Major goes the wrong way, breaks 5 tackles, scores against Penn State. West Virginia whacks Penn State. Andre Johnson has a big run in that game.
Yep.
And just everything fell into place. Before I interviewed the coach, I went back and did some research on it. I was shocked, I tell you, to learn that the one team that came closest to West Virginia during that regular season was Rutgers.
Sleeping Giant.
Rutgers.
They're Sleeping Giants.
Rutgers.
Yeah, Sleeping
Who was
Giant.
the best player on that Rutgers team?
In 88?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Oh, boy, I don't have to. I'd have to
Don't
go
know?
back and look. Do you know?
You know?
No, I don't know.
We should ask it.
I wasn't following Rutgers in 88.
35-25. They came within 10 points. I don't know how maybe it was a late touchdown. I don't know. First of all, Rutgers scored 25 points, but no other team during the regular season got within 10 points.
You think defense matters? Huh?
It did back then.
Especially back then.
Did
All
back
right, so here we
then.
go. Because you asked, I have to find out because I am obsessive.
Well, that team, talk about defense. They held Pitt to 10 points. They held Virginia Tech to 10 points. They held East Carolina to 10 points. Boston College, 19 points. Penn State got 30, but those were late. Cincinnati, they held to 13 points. Syracuse, they held to 9 points. Willie Edwards intercepts the pass, runs it in, completes the undefeated regular season. But that's back when they played defense.
Yeah.
Remember that?
So here you go. You know who was on that 88 Rutgers team? Who? We talk about some big names. Tom Tarver was their quarterback. Scott Ernie was their quarterback. Eric Young played in the majors, Major League Baseball player. Eric Young. Remember him? He was one of their wide receivers. Eric Young. Other than that, they had no one that you could ever remember. Randy Jackson, Brent Snyder. I mean, Jackson obviously went on to America's Idol. Tyrone McQueen, James Jenkins. Those are the guys. You know one other thing, Hoppy, that the 88 team had that no other Mountaineer team has really, really had?
What?
They had a rap song, man. Ready, yeah, they had a rap song. Baby, hit it out.
Here comes the major.
Well, calling all fans across the state.
Now it's time to celebrate.
We're 11-0
for the world to see.
We're the #1 team
in the whole country.
There you go, baby.
Weren't you the executive producer of that?
I was. I produced that with.
You still have any cassettes? You probably got 1,000 cassettes still at your house you can sell.
I probably have it somewhere, but let me tell you something, kiddos out there. That's when rap was really rap, right? It was a friendly rap, but that was the only time Don Nealon ever got mad at me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I didn't tell him I was doing it. I went to the parking lot, I picked up Major, drove over to West Run Road. There was a studio there. And we went to West Run Road, sat down, they wrote it like on paper. And he didn't know anything about it. And then and then Notre Dame got a copy of it.
Oh.
And they played it before all of their practices in Arizona. So
it's your fault that West Virginia lost the national championship game.
It's me. So when I get to Arizona, I got late because I came in from basketball, and Nealon sees me. The first time he sees me, and he says that was pre-finger surgery. So you didn't know. He got that finger. They tried to go like this, but it was only going like this. And he said, "You know what Notre Dame's playing before every one of their practices?" And I said, "What, coach?" And he said, "You're bleep, 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 bleep." I went like, "Oh, okay." That's true.
That was the end of your rap producing career?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
So well, I'm like the law and all receivers.
Well, we made $17,000 on that, and the money went to Ronald McDonald House. That's when they were building the first Ronald McDonald House in Morgantown.
You know,
So that
Coach,
was good. So the money went for a good cause, but you cost the Mountaineers a national championship with your
championship.
rap
Everything
song. With your little
changed.
rap song over there.
Major shoulder cost the Mountaineers a national
was
championship.
it shoulder or ribs?
Shoulder.
Was it shoulder?
Landed right on top of his shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been an eclectic episode. We got Rutgers in, so this will be big. This will be a big hit in the New Jersey area, and we talked rap.
But we're not done
Tony's rap
yet.
career.
We're not done yet. Ready? Here we go. Big 12 this week. Make your predictions. Don't take long. Coming up tomorrow night, Friday night football, TCU at SMU. How bad does TCU win? By how many?
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. Harv?
More than that, for 20.
UCLA, after a surprisingly shocking debut for Chip Kelly, got beat by Cincinnati in California at Oklahoma.
For Oklahoma's looks really good last week. Oklahoma by a ton.
4 touchdown plus. They roll.
Mississippi State at Kansas State.
This is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
This is a good one. We're going to spend some time on this, Hoppy, on our Saturday game day broadcast because Bill Snyder, as a home dog, is one of the biggest locks in history. I mean, it's like 39-1, just such a ridiculous number. But Mississippi State is loaded, and that spread's what? It's like 9.5. It's not quite 10. That's a tough one. I want to take Bill Snyder to keep it close, but Mississippi State's really good.
We all, here at our podcast, we always root for Coach Bill Snyder, but boy, I like Mississippi State in that one too.
Kansas at Central Michigan. Was the Nichols State debacle just a one-game aberration?
Who are they playing?
At Central Michigan.
They're going on the road to Central Michigan.
Well, sure.
It's
Who cares?
just go to the
Move
next
on.
game.
Who cares?
Lamar at Texas Tech. Slap job. I'll do it for you. Okay. Iowa State at Iowa. Your home state. Iowa State at Iowa. Now, in the past, this game was just an afterthought for Iowa. Matt Campbell's got the Cyclones rolling. Now, you grew up right in the Des Moines area. What do you got?
This is two schools that don't like each other here. This will be Iowa State needs to get this one. They've got that David Montgomery's a great running back. The Iowa State didn't play, got their first game lightninged out,
Right,
so this is their first game. They had a bunch of guys suspended for that game, but they've lifted the suspensions. It's a big controversy out there. Jamie Pollard, Matt Campbell, Jamie Pollard, the AD, has lifted those suspensions for those Cyclones. Said that it's been served. It has been served.
The first game was served.
Been served.
They didn't play.
Didn't play, but they've served the suspensions.
Well, sure they did. It was for that game.
The game wasn't played.
No, it was for that game. It was that date. It was the date.
So they
it
will
wasn't
be
the game.
available.
It was the date. It was the date.
If you're inclined to root for the Big 12 here.
College sports is amazing, man.
Serves,
There is
time served.
Yeah, time served, Harvey.
People come up. It's just like you just make stuff up. It's incredible.
Baylor against Texas.
What did you take there?
Who are you taking in that? Iowa.
Give me for the Big 12 brethren. I'll take the Cyclones.
Well, I was going to take the Cyclones, so I heard that. I'd take Iowa at home.
Baylor at Texas San Antonio.
We can only root for Texas San Antonio. That's all I'm going to say.
Boy, that's harsh. South Alabama at Oklahoma State. Romp job, right?
Oklahoma State not playing anybody. They're taking the
games.
Baylor approach to scheduling this year.
Austin, Texas, the site. Longhorns after that inexplicable loss. to
Maryland's not bad.
Don't start. They went to monster.com to get their coach for that game. Don't even start with me. Tulsa at Texas. Texas got to. If Texas doesn't win, oh, holy heck! You might have a heck of a news story on Sunday night.
Texas needs to win and play better and win convincingly. They don't just need to win. They can't win like 20-17. They have to roll to try to get some. I mean, in Texas, all the mouths are still hanging open in Austin.
That's going to be a really interesting story.
They gain nothing back this week, Texas. I don't care what they do. They
If they
gain
put
nothing
70
back.
up, they will.
They've got to go beat USC to start to get the conversation back to Texas.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm out.
All right, so
You were out last week.
Get out of here with your Texas.
You were out on
side.
Texas in the first quarter.
I was out in July.
You guys are hard. All right,
Texas.
This session is officially adjourned. We will be back in again on Monday to discuss West Virginia and Youngstown State. Share the word, spread the word of this podcast, folks.
They're going to play the Majors rap.
They should play Majors rap over the PA. Here comes the Major. That a boy, Major. That's the way.